I see it now. Hold on. All right, what we got here today is a 2013 Chevy Tahoe, and we will be replacing the radiator to it. But before we start, we'll go ahead and remove the top to the reservoir tank. This way, and we get to draining the radiator. It'll allow air to go in and help release all that water a little faster and quicker. Now I went ahead and took the wheel off for better and easy access to the lower radiator hose. And to get to that lower radiator hose, what we're going to be doing is taking off two 7mm screws, which would be this here, 1, 2, and then we'll go ahead and use a trim clip tool, or if you don't have one, flathead screwdriver. These clips up here with the flathead screwdriver. You pop off that middle clip, and that'll release the main clip that holds that plastic in. Alright, I got all the clips off. Now we're gonna go ahead and peel this plastic back. I guess the point is just to get it out of the way for easier and better access to that lower radiator hose. I got that plastic peeled back, and now we're gonna be, let me see if we can get down here. We're gonna be removing this lower radiator hose. All right, I went ahead and got that lower radiator hose off. Right here. Okay, now we're going to be removing this cover here. And what we're going to do is grab underneath, pull up, pull out, and wiggle it a bit so it comes out. Okay, now we're going to be removing this snorkel, and we're going to start with loosening up this clip, which is a 8mm socket. We also have a second clip, 8mm socket over here on this side. We'll be loosening that up. Our trim clip tool, we have a clip here that we can we're gonna need to pull out, which holds this upper radiator hose. This is that 8mm clamp that we loosened up. Here's the second 8mm clamp that we loosened up. Here's a clip that holds the radiator, the upper radiator hose into place. We already unclamped that. And we have this one here that we're gonna need to disconnect, which is the upper valve hose. You just kind of pull that out. Now we're gonna grab this here and pull up and out towards the front of the vehicle. There you go. We're gonna remove this from the airbox. And pull out. All right, next we're gonna be removing this air box. Before removing the air box, we're gonna be disconnecting this mass airflow sensor. It's on the mass airflow sensor connection. This here, this little white clip here. If you grab something small enough to poke that in, it'll release the white clip. So you can pull the white clip back, and then that'll release the clip from the airflow sensor. Now we're just gonna be pulling the air box back. A few clips down there. There's one back here that's not letting go. There it goes. I'll show you here in a minute the clips that I'm talking about. These are the clips underneath the air box that were not letting go. But just give it a tug, you'll be all right. And that's where the air box goes. I got the air box out. Next, we're gonna be removing these transmission cooler lines. And what we're gonna be doing is pulling this little plastic back, which covers the lock to the transmission cooler line. And what we're gonna need is a right angle pick. They do make tools to pull these locks off, which I don't have, and I don't have the right angle pick either. So I'm gonna figure out how I can get this lock off. Okay, here's the lock to the transmission cooler line. And what this does, or what this does is it clamps around in there and locks that transmission cooler line into place. What I did was I used this really small flathead screwdriver to get in there, pull the lock back, then I was able to squeeze it in and pull back. All right, now we got that lower transmission cooler line unlocked, just like we did this one here, the upper transmission cooler line. Now what we're going to be doing is taking a 10mm socket, and we will be loosening up these brackets right here and this one right here. All right, now that we got those locks off the transmission cooler line and those 10mm brackets unscrewed and ready to go. We're gonna pull back on these lines. Like that. I'm gonna be getting this lower line, doing the same. There you go. Now what we're gonna be doing is removing these hoses. I already disconnected this one here, and there's a clip underneath here with that trim clip tool, or a flathead screwdriver. We'll be releasing this clip here. See if I can pull it up, or tugging it like that and moving the hose out the way so I can then get to the harnesses that clip to the two fans. These are the two wire harnesses that I'm gonna be removing. I believe you just pull down or squeeze this and pull out. Let me see, I ain't got no leverage right now. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, so I got both wire harnesses off the two fans here, and it is just squeezing this down and pulling out. And I got the other one here. Those wire harnesses that we pulled back from the fans are clipped down into place. So I'll give it a little tug here and a little tug here. There it goes. Now we got those harnesses unclipped, so when we remove the radiator, it's not holding anything back. These are the clips that I was talking about. Let me see. These here are jammed into the radiator, holding that into place. And then we have another one, that one there, that's jammed in and held into place. And then the wire harness goes in to the fan. Okay, now we're gonna be removing these upper fan bolts out, which are size 13mm socket. This one here, and then we have one over there. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take that one out. We got the second upper fan bolt out. At this point, you should be able to grab your fan strap. Pull up on it. Bring them out. There you go. Okay, now we're gonna be taking this hose off. This one here, that goes to the top of the engine. With some pliers, squeeze them together, pull the hose back. All right, now we're gonna be taking this hose off that goes to the reservoir tank, or the overflow. But with the same pliers, give this clamp a squeeze, and wiggle the hose back and forth until it comes off. Now we're gonna pull this upper radiator hose off. All right. Now that we have that off, we have two 13mm socket bolts to remove the radiator. That'll loosen up the radiator. And all you do is pull the radiator up and out of the truck. And that's removing the radiator. Okay, here is our old radiator and our new radiator. As you can see, all the hose and plug-ins and all that is the same. Same as the old one. You got your upper radiator hose, Then down here you got your lower radiator hose, and then your transmission coolant lines. Those two, same place as the old ones. And then you got the hose that goes to your reservoir tank, and the hose that goes to the top of the engine. Same ones there. The new one did come with a petcock. The original one does not. So if you ever needed to drain your radiator, you'd be able to do it with this here. Now we're going to be reinstalling the radiator. Okay, now we're going to be reinstalling the radiator. Putting this down in here. Making sure the feet go down into them holes so it'll sit right. Once we got the radiator in, we can start screwing in these 13mm bolts. All right, before I put this radiator back, my radiator, I'm not sure if they all come like this or if there's some that do come with these rubber bushings. See that one there? And on the bottom of the radiator, there's two rubber feet that also didn't come. Let me show you real quick. So this is the bottom. So this is the bottom of my old radiator. And I pulled the rubber feet off of them. And then the rubber bushings that go in here. Since the new one did not come with those rubber bushings, I went ahead and took them off of the old radiator. Now that we got those rubber bushings back on this new radiator, we'll go ahead and put these 13mm screws back in. There it is. Radiator's back on. Now we're gonna be putting back, let's move these out the way. Now we're gonna start off with putting this lower radiator hose on, and then we'll move up to this this hose that goes to the top of the engine, and we'll move up to this one here that goes to the reservoir tank. All right, now we got, okay, we went ahead and put that lower radiator hose on. The hose that goes to the top of the engine, and the hose that goes to the reservoir tank. Okay, now that I got these three hoses on, the lower radiator hose, the hose that goes to the top of the engine, and the hose that goes to the reservoir tank, I could put this upper radiator hose on, but I'm gonna go ahead and wait on that upper radiator hose until I put the fan in. All right, I went ahead and put the fans back in. When you put the fans back in, you gotta make sure that the fan is sitting on that little clip there that's coming off of the radiator. Same thing on the passenger side. Once you get that fitted in, this one here, passenger side, then you got your two other upper fan bolts, 13mm. Get those tightened down. Now that we have our fan in, we're gonna go ahead and put those wire harnesses back onto the fan. But before clipping those in, we're gonna clip those retainers back in to hold the wiring into place. So once I put those retainers back in, we'll click the fan harnesses back on and move on to the next step. That clip is in. That clip is in. Upper radiator hose is back on. Okay, now we're gonna be putting on the transmission coolant lines. We'll start off with the bottom one and then do this upper one. But before we do that, so we don't forget to clamp down this radiator hose. Put that in the hole. There it goes. That's it. I'm gonna line that up. Push in until it clips. I'm gonna grab that black plastic ring. Let's see if we can get it to focus. That goes over it. And we got, come up to this upper one. Let's see if I can get in. Line it up. Push it until it clips. And you got that little plastic ring. Make sure to cover it all the way around. All right, now that we got those transmission coolant lines back in, we can't forget about the brackets. 10mm socket for both upper line and the lower line. Now we're going to install the air box. Now that we got the air box in, we're gonna get the mass airflow sensor harness. Connect that. Alright, next we're gonna be replacing this intake snorkel. Let's bring this in. Line up this the snorkel with the throttle body. Once we have it lined up, go ahead and push back. Lift this up. There you go. There you go. this up here. There you go. Make sure this is, there you go. Over and to the air box. Check it out. Full body's fully covered. Down in here, I guess in the process of taking off and putting on this radiator, we lost the clip, the retainer that goes holding the upper radiator hose to the snorkel. We'll go ahead and kick that there. That there. Don't forget to connect this back. There you go. Now we'll get our 8mm socket so we can tighten down these clamps. Just give it a little snug, nothing too hard. You don't want to pop that clamp. Now we'll be replacing this plastic cover that we're going to slide in. Over here on this side we have the heater hose, the 2-liter hose that we got to go underneath. Push that back in, and I felt it clamping back there. And let me bring the camera around this way so I can show you where it clips on. Now under here, this here has a rubber ring in there that clips down onto that bone socket there. You line it up, push down. Alright, as you can see, the coolant is there to the fill line. I'll go ahead and add a little bit more to bring it up to that line there. And then I'm going to start the vehicle. When I start the vehicle, it'll suck in the coolant. And then we'll fill it up accordingly. Another good thing to do is to keep an eye on your temperature. We're going to wait till it gets to that half point, 210 degrees, and then keep the heater on high. Keep checking to see if when it gets hot. If it doesn't get hot, that means it doesn't have enough coolant. Just keep adding coolant. Okay, I think I can go ahead and turn the vehicle off. You see the temperature gauge is pretty much there at 210 degrees, and It's blowing hot. So right now we're just going to go ahead and be turning off the vehicle, letting it cool down, coming out and topping it off accordingly, and then we'll take it out for a test drive.